Coming up on Warriors today, we're going to explore an Andrew Wiggins for Kristaps Porzingis swap, why it could work, reasons to hit pause. But first, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We're getting closer and closer to 18,000 subscribers. This is your home for the best Warriors news and rumors. So either hit that red subscribe button down below or go to youtube.com/WarriorsTV. Should the Golden State Warriors trade Andrew Wiggins for Kristaps Porzingis? That's a question that I've received a lot in recent weeks, and I've done a lot of thinking about it, so that's what we're breaking down on today's show. Here's the thing about Andrew Wiggins. He is never going to live up to being the #1 overall pick back in the 2014 NBA draft. I feel very old in saying that. Can't believe it was already 7 years ago. From the Minnesota Timberwolves standpoint, they're probably frustrated that they gave him that contract because he was certainly overpaid at the time when they gave him that 5-year, $147.7 million contract. Now it's the Warriors' problem to deal with. It's not like the Warriors gave him that deal, though. So for Warriors fans to say Andrew Wiggins is a bust, Andrew Wiggins is terrible, I actually disagree. I think Andrew Wiggins is overpaid, but he is underrated. And he's coming off one of the best and most efficient seasons of his young NBA career. His career stats up to this point, pretty solid. Like I said, not going to be that #1 overall pick that a lot of people expected him to be when he was pinned as the next LeBron James, the mini Michael Jordan coming out of Kansas. But he's been a really productive player, and let's not act like he hasn't been. 19.5 points throughout his career, nearly 5 rebounds. He's shooting almost 45% from the deck, 34% from 3, which isn't a great number. Here's the thing, though. Improved greatly in that category this past season with the Warriors, and really it was him and Steph Curry carrying a lot of the offensive load. You look at these numbers for this past season, they were pretty good. 18.5 points per game, almost 5 rebounds. But what I'm looking at here, the shooting percentage went up. The three-point percentage went up to almost 38%. If those figures continue to rise, Andrew Wiggins is worthy of being maybe not a max player, but a really solid player who's a borderline all-star. And if he is your number 3 or 4 option, Andrew Wiggins is fine, right? You just don't want him being your #1 or #2. That's what the Minnesota Timberwolves figured out very quickly, that he's not going to be the face of the franchise. That's why they dealt him to Golden State. But for the Warriors to get back Andrew Wiggins and a top 3 protected pick in that deal for D'Angelo Russell, for me, that's a steal. So if Andrew Wiggins is your 3 or 4, which is what you figure him to be when Klay Thompson comes back, when Draymond Green continues to play well, he's a pretty good option for Steve Kerr, and I think he fits in really nicely to those aforementioned players. Why is that? Andrew Wiggins next to Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green gives you a lot offensively as a secondary or third option, but also defensively, he's a really, really good two-way player and a guy who can lock down opposing wings like the Paul Georges of the NBA and the Kawhi Leonards. It's really difficult to stop those guys, but can you limit them? Can you frustrate them? And can you kind of alter their opportunities? That's what Andrew Wiggins has had the propensity of doing throughout his NBA career because he puts a focus on defense, he's athletic enough, and puts forward effort as well. I talk about that jump that he made this past year. I thought it was a pretty big career jump for Andrew Wiggins, and I thought it was massive for his confidence moving forward. Because when you're a #1 overall pick, people peg you to be the next face of the league, that next superstar. The pressure is on you, and you can really, really feel that. And I think early on in his career, Andrew Wiggins certainly felt that. I'm not sure he has the mentality or the makeup that Kobe Bryant possessed or Michael Jordan possessed. But for him to improve vastly this past year, it was big for his confidence. I thought he took a big career jump. Here's the other thing. Andrew Wiggins is only 26 years old. He's been in the league since 2014, so it feels as though he's a seasoned veteran and he's getting long in the tooth. He's in his early 30s. No, Andrew Wiggins is in the thick of his prime right now at only 26 years old, and he really reminds me a lot of a former Warrior who Warriors fans are very familiar with and a guy who helped lead them to a championship, Harrison Barnes. A lot of similarities with the two-way fashion in which they play with, the athleticism in which they display, but also kind of the value that they bring their respective teams. And Andrew Wiggins, if you compare him to Harrison Barnes, very valuable players who can really contribute on championship-ready teams, which is what the Warriors are trying to get back to. You look at their numbers from this season in 2020, 2021, eerily similar. 18.5 points per game for Wiggins, 16.1 for Harrison Barnes, but then the shooting splits. Andrew Wiggins, 47.7% from the deck, 38% from three. Harrison Barnes, on the other hand, nearly 50, shooting 39% from distance. So these are two very similar players, and I think from here moving forward, this is the comp for Andrew Wiggins. It's Harrison Barnes, a guy who's a really valuable player, maybe not quite an all-star, but maybe a borderline all-star and a very valuable player. So I want to ask you this question because people hammer Andrew Wiggins in the comments, they hammer him in the media. I am going to die on the hill of this. Andrew Wiggins might be overpaid. He is certainly underrated. I like him, so I'm going to go ahead and type my Y for yes. Do you like him? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Be sure to get your votes in the comment section down below. Warriors Today is made possible thanks to our friends at NEWSBREAK. It is the single best app that I have on my phone right now. Here's the thing, though. In terms of followers on the NEWSBREAK app for Warriors Today, we're killing it. But with downloads, we have some work to do. And we cannot be defeated by the Los Angeles Lakers report. This past week, Lakers report has 10 NEWSBREAK downloads using that link at the bottom of your screen. Warriors Today only has 3. So go to chatsports.com/WarriorsNB, download the NEWSBREAK app right now. That link at the bottom of your screen will redirect you to the App Store, and let's catch up to the Lakers report. I know this rivalry is real. Let's overtake them and show them that the Dubs are for real. Reasons to download the NEWSBREAK app and why I say it's the best app on my phone. On one feed, you get it all. Your local news and weather, your local deals and entertainment, your sports content, as well as Warriors Today videos from us here at Chat Sports. Basically, it aggregates all of your local news on one single feed so you don't have to play around with a bunch of different tabs and get overwhelmed. One more time, chatsports.com/WarriorsNB. That redirects you to the App Store, and download that app today. Let's pivot to Kristaps Porzingis right now. Yes, injuries have caused him to not be the same player that he was when he was unicorn status and at the peak of his powers at balling out at MSG with the New York Knicks. And he could be on the move this offseason. This is something that we're going to continue to cover here, and that's why we're breaking down this trade today. Mark Cuban has said and acknowledged that there have been rifts between Kristaps Porzingis and Luka Doncic. Kristaps doesn't like being in the shadow of Luka. Let's be real, though. Luka is a generational player. Kristaps Porzingis at this point is not. Also, the Dallas Mavericks are blowing up the front office right now. President of Basketball Operations Donnie Nelson and the Mavericks have parted ways. Looks like Bob Voulgaris could be out as well. Not sure if Rick Carlisle is going to leave as well. But the point here being, Mavericks kind of rebuilding that front office a little bit. Does that pave the way for Kristaps Porzingis to be traded? He's certainly been underwhelming with the Mavericks as a number 2 to Luka Doncic, but when you look at the raw numbers, you just see that there is a solid player in there. North of 20 points per game, almost 10 rebounds. He can block a shot and a half per night. Shooting percentage for a 7+ footer, 36.9%. The eye test, though, is why you say, I just don't know about Kristaps Porzingis, and is he that same player, coming off of some of the injuries that continue to surface over time. From the Dallas Mavericks standpoint, they have to make Luka Doncic happy. He's entering a critical year 4. He's due for the Supermax. So whatever Luka Doncic wants, that's what the Mavericks have to provide him with. And if Luka doesn't want to play with Kristaps Porzingis anymore, then ship him out of there. Could Kristaps Porzingis also use a change of scenery, given that his experiment and his time, his tenure with the Mavericks hasn't lived up to expectations? When he was balling out with the New York Knicks, he was looking like a unicorn. He was looking like one of the top front court players in the league, and a lot of people thought that tandem of Luka and Kristaps was going to dominate the NBA for years to come. It hasn't happened. So could Kristaps use a change of scenery? And could going to Golden State really help him out a lot, when you consider that the Warriors have done a tremendous job with developing players over time. Yes, Steve Kerr took over for Mark Jackson, but Steve Kerr has continued to develop and did develop Steph Curry as well as Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. Look at the job that they did this past year with Jordan Poole. He took off and looks like a legitimate 6th man. Could Kristaps be the next guy who the Warriors are able to develop in-house and turn into a really solid player? Some worries about Porzingis. he's somewhat soft for me. And when he goes up against some of the legit centers across the league, against some of the top tier teams across the NBA, doesn't put up the numbers like he does against some of the weaker competition. And I think at the end of the day, he's somewhat soft and flaky. For James Wiseman, if you bring in and trade for Kristaps Porzingis, where does this leave him? You spent the number 2 overall pick on Wiseman. He certainly flashed at times. He was also maddening in his rookie season. It was cut short due to that knee injury. If you trade for Kristaps, where does that leave Wiseman? What does that do for his confidence? Do you move Wiseman to the bench and start Kristaps at the 5? Could Kristaps play the 4, Wiseman the 5? Maybe there's some lineup versatility there. I just don't want to damage the confidence of James Wiseman because he's only 20 years old. Here's why this deal could potentially make sense, and this is why we're talking about it. Kristaps Porzingis, his contract, as well as Andrew Wiggins, very, very similar in terms of the dollar figures. Over the next 3 years, Kristaps has a base salary of $31.5 million, $33.8 million, and $36 million even. Andrew Wiggins, on the other hand, only on the books for 2 more seasons after signing that 5-year deal with the Timberwolves for $31.5 million and $33.5 million. That's why I drew up this trade idea, because the money makes total sense on both sides, and Kristaps could fill a need for the Warriors, Andrew Wiggins could fill a need for the Dallas Mavericks, and this deal at the end of the day could happen. Me, if I'm Bob Myers running the ship for the Warriors, I'm passing on this deal. I'm high on Andrew Wiggins, and maybe I'm higher on him than most. And maybe a lot of people, and you watching right now, kind of like Kristaps Porzingis more than me. I think when Klay Thompson comes back and you have a lineup of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, James Wiseman, you have Jordan Poole as your 6th man, you bring in some other bench pieces to fortify that unit, I think you're looking at a Warriors team that could realistically contend in the Western Conference next year. You take Andrew Wiggins out of the equation, you put Kristaps Porzingis in it, I'm not sure that team is as well-rounded and as dangerous as they possibly could be. So here is the trade idea that I want to pass along that we've been breaking down on today's show. Warriors simply get Kristaps Porzingis. Dallas Mavericks get Andrew Wiggins. It is a player-for-player swap because the money is virtually even and it works for both sides. Do you like the deal? Posing this question for you before we head out of here. Type T for yes. Make the trade. Type P for pass. Be sure to get your votes in the comment section down below, and let's see what you come up with.